This podcast. Well, hello everyone. Welcome back to Massive Late Fees Dumpster Diving.
Splash.
This is where we talk about the horrible TV shows that we used to watch when we were kids. This week we watched Mr. Belvedere.
Brocktoon.
Mike, did you watch Mr. Belvedere when you were a kid?
Kind of like I would watch it every so often, but I didn't. I don't really remember it that well. The only thing I really remember is this episode where there's like a tornado coming,
Mm-hmm.
and then that's basically all I remember. I don't. I mean, I kind of remembered Wesley. I was surprised to find out that they had two other children as well.
Yeah, they're not. Especially that daughter is not featured very much at all.
Yeah, the older boy was on there a bit, but how about you? Were you a Mr. Belvedere fan?
I really liked the theme song. That's what
Yeah,
I
that's
remember.
that's a great theme song for sure.
That's what I remember about the show. I don't really. I think there was an episode where Wesley got molested by a camp counselor.
Oh, geez, did that really happen?
I think so. Yeah.
I think I know what we're watching for our next dumpster diving.
Right. But most of what I remember, or most of what I know about the show, comes from Norm Macdonald's conversations about with Bob Euchre about Mr. Belvedere.
Yeah, I couldn't help but think of of those the entire time I was watching this, because Bob Euchre could be like a more straight laced person on the show. He's not like a wacky father who like gets into crazy adventures, from what I can tell.
Nope.
He's just kind of there.
Yeah, he is absolutely the straight man of the show.
But according to Norm and Artie Lang, he's quite the live wire when you see him in person.
Mm-hmm.
You
Yeah.
should definitely check those stories out if you can. And another kind of famous thing I know about Mr. Belvedere, tell me if you heard this one, Mark.
Mm-hmm.
Apparently Adam Sandler was there, like on set. You know, he was an early acting role. I think he was still on SNL, or this was obviously before. And he was there when Mr. Belvedere sat on his own ball.
Yeah, I've heard that before.
And then I guess they call like EMT or something.
Oh my god. It's so cringy.
Yes, every part of it.
I'll tell you what though, if
You know, if those were nice and smooth, you wouldn't have to worry about that.
exactly, if he went to Manscaped and got used our promo code late fee and got 20% off, it wouldn't have been so bad.
Hey, are you tired of buying thousands of dollars worth of shampoo just for your pubes each year?
Exactly.
You shampoo those, right, Mark?
You know, I never did. I always used soap for the longest time until I can't remember. I can't remember what guy I was showering with. No, I mean I can't remember what how I found out about this. But someone was like, "Oh yeah, you don't use shampoo." Oh, it was a stand-up comedian. That's what it was. It was I think I was watching Dane Cook, and he was talking about shampooing his pubes, and I'm like, "Huh." I was like, "It is hair. I guess that makes sense."
Yeah, it gives them a nice little bounce.
Interesting.
But yeah, you don't want to waste all that money on your pube shampoo.
No, not at all.
Go to mangroomer.com maybe.
Manscaped.
Oh, is that what it is?
Yeah.
Isn't the product called the Man Groomer though?
It's called the Lawnmower 2.0.
Oh my god, what the hell was I using?
But yeah, it's manscaped.com, promo code late fee, all caps, for 20% off. It's fantastic.
Again, why you wouldn't use massive as a code for this one? I don't know.
Yeah,
I'm no scientist.
exactly. But you know, and that's the thing too. I heard that crabs are an endangered species now, and I think Manscaped has a lot to do with that.
Probably.
Yeah. But yeah, so yeah, I've heard the story about him sitting on his balls. I don't know if that's true or not, but God, that sounds awful.
And hilarious.
But yeah, the show is on ABC 1985 to 1990. It's a very 80s show.
Yes, I didn't realize this, but I mean, obviously the title is Mr. Belvedere, but I didn't realize he was also the starring person on the show. Like he's the first credit.
Oh yeah, Christopher Hewitt.
I would really like to know how Bob Euchre got this job, because I mean, no offense, Bob Euchre, but you could just put anybody else in the role and it would be no different.
Oh, absolutely.
Like, I mean, why would you not use Bob Uecker to the fullest of his abilities? I mean, he's great in major leagues.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
Okay, Major League Two.
Yeah.
Major League Three is excellent. I've only seen him in Major League, the Major League franchise, and this. Has he been in Miller Lite commercials, which is where he met Norm Macdonald, actually.
Yeah, that I remember those Miller Lite commercials.
I
Very.
don't. I should look it up. It sounds interesting.
He's got one of those interesting voices. It,
Yeah. I mean, I remember Bob Uecker from those commercials. I just don't remember Norm also being in them. Yeah, he's definitely got a distinct voice. Obviously a good characteristic for a. Does he still do play-by-play for the Brewers?
yes, I believe he does.
Wow, I wouldn't mind finding their like web stream and just listening to him because I mean I don't care about the Brewers, but he does have a fun voice, And again, with the Norm Macdonald and Artie Lang stories, knowing what he's doing during the broadcast,
Mhm.
that just cheers me up.
I know that he was on some episodes, or he was on like one episode of Who's the Boss. I think he did some things here and there on TV. I think he was in a couple movies too. Oh, he was in one of those Fatal Instinct. Do you remember that movie?
No, what is it? Is it like a rip like a parody of Killer Instinct?
Yeah, exactly. Carl
Is,
Reiner
is that what
directed
it's called? Fatal Instinct? I thought I had a different name
Fatal
for some reason.
Attraction.
Maybe that's what it was. I don't know. There
Yeah.
were a few like that.
It's a parody of Fatal Attraction starring
Oh, I
Armand
see.
Assante.
I'm thinking of something else. So it might be just. I think it's just Loaded Weapon is what I'm thinking of with Emilio Estevez.
Yeah, that's right. Emilio Estevez and is Samuel L. Jackson the guy in that?
Yeah, yep, he is. I was confusing Basic Instinct with Fatal Attraction. I've never seen either of them. I've only seen very small part of Basic Instinct
But yeah, it's
repeatedly.
Armand Assante. I think I'm trying to think. Sean Young's in it. I know that. The great Christopher McDonald's in it.
Oh, he eats pieces of shit like you for breakfast.
Exactly. You
I
piece
do
of
like him.
shit.
He's not. I don't think he's in enough stuff. He's in Dennis the Menace, Billy Madison.
Mhm.
Isn't he in like another Adam Sandler movie? No, he's not in Billy Madison. He's in Happy Gilmore, obviously.
He's in Dirty Work.
That's right. That's what I'm thinking. Dirty Work. Yeah.
He's the antagonist in Dirty Work.
He's Alan Covert 1.0.
Right. I think his first movie, or at least one of his first movies, was Grease 2.
Huh, I didn't see that one. Aside from Happy Gilmore, the first thing I saw him in, like in the preview, was Dennis the Menace. And did they do a
Yes.
sequel to that? I don't really know if they did or not.
I think they did.
The movie,
Yeah.
Dennis. Huh.
Yeah, I
That's
think
weird.
they did. I know he was one of the first things I saw him in was the movie Chances Are with Robert Downey Jr.
Never seen that one.
He plays the I think he plays the best friend of the guy that dies, and then Robert Downey Jr. So the plot of the movie is this guy's just got married to Sybil Shepherd. She gets pregnant. She's gonna have a daughter. Then he dies in an accident, and he gets reincarnated as Robert Downey Jr. So then
What?
he gets reincarnated as a baby, and then that baby grows up to be Robert Downey Jr. And Robert Downey Jr. runs into Sybil Shepherd just in happenstance. This is years later, and he feels like this connection to her, but he also kind of feels this connection to his daughter. And there's like a romantic subplot between him and the daughter, but he really wants to be with Sybil Shepherd because he basically I think he remembers who he is at some point, and then so he's trying to get with Sybil Shepherd, and the daughter has a crush on him, and he's like, oh, gross, And Christopher McDonald plays the best man at the wedding, like his best friend. In the end, he ends up getting with Sybil Shepherd. Robert Downey Jr., I think the soul gets reincarnated into someone else, and someone else becomes Robert Downey Jr. or something. I don't remember exactly how the
That
hell
sounds
it
like a
works.
fucked up movie.
It's weird, but it's kind of a good movie.
I don't know about that.
But he was in Dutch.
Oh, okay. I didn't see that either.
That's a good movie. He was in Grumpy Old Men. He was in
Huh.
I'm
I don't
trying to
remember him
think.
for that.
He was in Quiz Show as Jack Barry, the host of 21.
Oh, yeah. That's familiar now for sure. That's a really good movie.
Yeah, and he was in Celtic Pride, one of my and Ben's favorite movies.
I always forget how good of a movie Quiz Show is. Like
It really
I've
is
seen it
really
like
good.
once maybe, but I mean I don't know why that movie's not on all the time. Like it's a great movie.
Yep. What's his name?
Stanley Tucci.
I was gonna say Stanley Tucci, but it's the other one.
Or is it the John? What's the other one? I don't know
John
what.
Turturro.
The one. There you go, John Turturro.
I don't know why, but I always confuse those two.
Yeah, they look very similar. Why aren't they both in the same movie? They just play like twins.
Exactly.
I always wonder if like you actually did see them next to each other, if they would still bear a resemblance to each other.
Yeah, I don't know. I mean, I feel like they kind of look alike, but not really that much. They just, I don't know. I don't know what it is.
I don't know. Their voices are not too different from each other, which is a big factor for me.
That might be a big part of it, yeah.
Another one is Gary Busey and Nick Nolte.
Mm-hmm.
And the worst of all, and I was thinking about this earlier because I was thinking of Breaking Bad. Like Aaron Paul from Breaking Bad looks just like Daniel Potter, the Harry Potter guy, Radcliffe.
Oh, Daniel Radcliffe. Ooh, they do kind of
they
look
both,
alike.
No. I'm not done. And they both look like Elijah Wood.
Yes, absolutely.
I'd love to see all three of them stand next to each other.
They could all play brothers in a movie for sure.
Because on the Reddit Breaking Bad group, there's a picture of Bryan Cranston and Aaron Paul from one of the rap parties where they're dressed as each other. Mm-hmm. And without his hair, Aaron Paul looks very much like Daniel Radcliffe. Like, you would be hard to tell them from each other.
I always thought that Tobey Maguire and Jake Gyllenhaal kind of looked alike.
I don't know. I don't see that one too much. I don't really know Keira Knightley that well. I don't know stuff she's in.
I've been to parties with her.
But I know like people say her and what's her name, Natalie Portman looks very similar.
A little.
Like, I think they played twin. Like I think on one of the Star Wars movies, like they were like supposed to play like the same character kind of.
Oh, okay.
Like, I think one was like a stand-in, and then supposedly their own mothers had trouble telling them apart.
Oh, that's right. Yeah, in the prequel, Keira Knightley was like the body double for Queen Amidala, and then she got blowed up in the second movie.
Yeah, something like that. But supposedly, from what like one of them had said, like in an interview or something, like their own mothers couldn't tell them apart. But both their mothers are legally blind, so
yeah, exactly. But speaking of blindness can be a complication of AIDS.
Nice.
Which is what...
I don't think that's true, though.
I don't either. But that's what this episode is about. This is from
we don't want you to think that we're stalling because this is a bad episode, because this is a very rich episode.
Oh, it is for sure.
I think this is the first one I ever was watching where I was messaging Mark like, "What the fuck is going on with
this?" Yeah, we had quite a conversation. But this episode's from season 2, so this is 1986. So it's fairly early days of the AIDS crisis. And Wesley comes home dressed as President William Howard Taft, fattest president ever.
And he's upset that nobody can guess who he is.
Yeah, so he got there late, and the only choices were Nixon and Taft, and this other dude got to be Nixon because he sweats a lot.
Great.
Which seems pretty judgmental from the teachers.
Yeah, this is a time. This is a thing that only happens in like TV shows and movies where people actually give a shit about President's Day, and it's not a furniture store.
Yeah, exactly.
Like, there's a book I like a lot. It's a Neil Gaiman book. It's Anansi Boys. It's like the sequel to American Gods.
Okay.
And in the beginning, like they kind of like this the god Anansi, like he's got a human form. Spoilers. And he tells his son, he's like, "Oh yeah, everybody dresses up on President's Day." So actually, I think it is Taft that they settle on. And then, like, he just drops him off at school, and nobody else is dressed like that, you know?
That's hilarious.
But, I mean, aside from that and this, and like I said, furniture sales, I don't even know when President's Day is. I think it's February, actually, but I'm not positive.
Yeah, it's sometime, I don't remember what day, but it's sometime in February, because Lincoln and Washington's birthdays were both in February.
Yeah, it's less popular than Lincoln's birthday, and we all know when that is.
Yeah, exactly. February 15th.
I don't know.
14th.
It's Valentine's Day.
But anyway, so... No, yeah, that's Valentine's Day.
But yeah, so we got... Wesley comes home, and, they're joking about his Taft costume.
Yeah. He says that he might have a chance to be Lincoln, though, which obviously is the starring role. Because
for sure.
His friend, who everyone likes because he never gets in trouble and everything, has finally gotten in trouble. He got caught with this stuff, AIDS.
Yeah,
And then the audience laughs.
yeah. I just say I like how they took the opportunity to discuss AIDS and also make a bunch of AIDS jokes.
Yeah. The best one, the best joke is little bit later in the episode when when Bob Euchre says, "Well, you come on, you don't get AIDS by," because he's like, I played with Danny and all this stuff, and he's like, "Oh, Wesley, you don't get AIDS from fooling around," and then he kind of
Right.
stops.
Oh, that's I know the worst joke in the show.
Oh yeah.
But yeah, so Wesley is like, just haha, hilarious
Mm-hmm.
kid. This wacky kid doesn't know his friend's got AIDS, which at this time is very lethal.
Oh, absolutely. Yeah, this is a death sentence for this kid.
But yeah, at this time, there were some people who did live quite a long time, more than they expected. But at this time, it was like saying, "Oh, hey, you have terminal blank. This is how bad this is considered at this time." So
Absolutely.
you said this is the first time it's ever mentioned on TV.
Yeah, yeah, exactly.
So the first mention of AIDS on TV is a bad joke.
But yeah, so he says
Speaking of bad jokes,
he says that his buddy's got AIDS, and he's
big time.
they I think so. I'm trying to remember exactly what happens after this. He goes, I think he comes back downstairs, and they're like, "Hey, we gotta tell him what this is," because he thinks it's
No,
just
no. I think doesn't he go to school and then he makes a reference to it and scares someone off and they realize that he doesn't realize how serious this is. Like he thinks his friend is just like sick for a week or two.
well. They tell him
Oh,
like
that's what it was. He's like
yeah,
he's like oh, he's gonna be sick for a week and
yeah,
then he's like and they're like how about who? And then Mr. Belvedere's like yes, Wesley, too, or something like that.
yeah, maybe a whole month.
Yeah, just like he's like so resigned. But this gives me a lot of questions. First of all, why do they need a fucking live-in nanny man?
I don't know.
Who exactly is this for? I mean, Wesley's like 10 probably, and his siblings are like 17 and non-existent.
Yeah, exactly.
I mean, what do they? I mean, as far as I can tell, the mom doesn't have a job.
I don't know exactly what happened. I know so from
I,
the
I know a steam trunk to China was involved.
yeah the he I believe what so now I'm just speculating here, but I believe what happened was he was a butler for like royalty and shit like that, and then decided that he wanted to see the world, and he kind of worked everywhere he was going, and he stopped in Pittsburgh.
Yeah, in the credits, he's holding a sign for Pittsburgh. Like, so why of all the places in the world did you go to Pittsburgh?
Right. But I know that Bob Euchre played a sports writer,
Yeah,
and
that would make sense. And why would they not send him to Milwaukee? Is what I don't understand. I mean, if
mhm,
Bob Euchre actually has a sports job there.
right. I think his wife was going to law school. I think.
Oh, okay. I wasn't sure, but I mean, another point is this house is not very big.
No, not at all.
Like it's not like Mr. Belvedere all fucking day to clean this house.
Yeah, he
I mean,
doesn't do
if he's a
much.
pro, yeah, he doesn't do anything. And then he makes like this this big decision to tell Wesley that his friend's gonna get better.
Right. And he goes at some points. I guess spoilers for this episode. At some point, he takes them on vacation. So it's just like, what is he doing? Like he has such a weird role in the family.
I really don't understand what's going on. I don't understand why he's there. This doesn't make any sense.
But yeah, so he goes to school. Wesley goes to school and says, "Yeah, I get to be Lincoln now." And his black friend says, yeah, you're only gonna get to be Lincoln, or I hear you're gonna be Lincoln now." And he goes, "Yeah, give me a bite of your cupcake, and I'll free you."
Yeah, yeah. That's the joke that made me say, "What the fuck?"
We got slave jokes, y'all.
Yeah, it's like see anyone who's young needs to watch this episode
Hmm.
because look at the response. Nobody's offended. This is 30 years ago, and
Yep.
I mean, obviously everyone wants there to be big, changes, but it does not happen quickly, unfortunately.
No.
I mean, this is 30 years ago. I mean, I'm sure you could watch like a Friends episode where they're making like gay jokes and that kind of stuff.
Oh,
I
yeah.
mean, things that nowadays are like basically the same thing as releasing rice into the water supply, or they're just like, okay.
The uproar from this one joke, if this was released today, would be enormous.
Yeah, it's ridiculous.
So he takes a bite of the dude's cupcake, and they
He's
talk
pretty
about.
cocky now. He's Lincoln.
Oh yeah, absolutely. They talk
And
about.
the reason he was tapped in the first place, mind you, is his own fault. He overslept.
Yep.
It's not like random luck of the draw. He was fucking around, probably hanging out with Mr. Belvedere or some shit, and then
Yeah, Danny the hemophiliac was there first thing, ready to bleed all over everybody.
yeah, no shit.
Because that's the thing, he's a hemophiliac. So I mean, they so what happened is they found out he had AIDS, basically, and probably because he brushed against a wall and started bleeding all over. But they found out he had AIDS at school, and they said, well, you gotta, you have to go home.
Leave school because we're just gonna wait casually while they figure this out. Which what?
Right. Which, now here's the thing. I mean, I don't blame the school in this instance simply because he is a hemophiliac. Because
that's a bad combo.
yeah, you don't want
If
that.
there's two diseases you don't want to pair together,
Right.
they're at the top. They're close to the top of the list.
But
And obviously, this apparently, if he got molested as well, this is a very special episode of Mr. Belvedere.
well, they do say that he got it from a bad transfusion.
Yeah, they do say it's no. I'm not making a reference to that because it's like I mean, while it's this episode is also a big commentary on the ignorance of people about AIDS because while it is early in the in the public awareness of the disease, I mean, apparently the information they give in this episode is accurate, so they must have had it pretty well figured out by.
Yeah.
And then we see so what happens is Mr. Belvedere, who's surprisingly knowledgeable about AIDS.
He is. Yes.
He's like really he knows a lot. Well actually there's a lot of well actuallys from him about the AIDS in this episode.
Yeah.
So he's like, oh, actually, it's for he like first of all he instantly he knew this kid had AIDS somehow. Like he's like, oh, you're talking about the kid with AIDS? That's Danny so and so.
Right. I believe he's a hemophiliac.
Yeah, I mean that's just he's very aware suddenly for some reason.
This kid we've never heard from before and we'll never hear from again.
Oh, exactly. But so he even they actually what's kind of funny is they really politely, not politely, but very calmly break down, how AIDS isn't really dangerous and how you shouldn't be afraid of it. Mm-hmm. And that only makes Wesley more afraid of AIDS.
Yeah, because what happens is, so the kids at the lunch table, they're like, I heard that you can get it from just talking to somebody on the phone. I heard that you can get it from, touching somebody, and they're like, and the one guy goes, I hear that your arms and legs fall off and then you die, which is ridiculous. Although you do die. But then then they all say, hey, you did all that shit. Here, just take the rest of my cupcake. We don't want your AIDS. And then they all leave. So now all of a sudden Wesley doesn't want to be friends with Danny anymore because Danny's lost all his friends and Wesley doesn't want to lose his friends because of AIDS.
If you can't heed the advice of your live-in butler, then whose advice can you take? I mean, he could have just nipped this in the bud right here and said, hey, it's not bad, you're
right.
Which is essentially what he does later. That's all he does.
They try to explain to him. They're like, and it's clear the parents don't really know anything about it. And the daughter does the one line that she has in the whole show. She's like, hey, you get AIDS from having sex. See you later. I'll be upstairs collecting a paycheck. Right.
Yeah, no shit.
But so she, so they basically, they're like, they're
like, we have a daughter?
Right. But they said you can only really get sex from like that and if you cut, yourselves and
like blood transfusions,
right.
Mosquitoes, toilet seats, that kind of stuff.
And he's like, oh, we did all that stuff. Sharing ice cream, I think she says, if you share ice cream. And he's like, oh yeah, we did all that. And so then they're upset. And she goes to the internet of 1986, the library, the mom does.
Oh yeah, I was going to say internet. That doesn't sound right at all. Were they on
And
Prodigy?
right, she prints out or I guess she printed them out. I don't know, or maybe she just ripped them out of a book. But she brought them home and basically said that you know you
I
can't.
wonder what this small town thought about the very sudden interest in the AIDS virus amongst the Belvedere clan.
Right.
Like, oh, it's got to be that Butler guy, right?
I saw him
He's
hanging out
got
with
it.
Magic Johnson.
It was a triplet. Doesn't have any hemophilia. Let me tell you that.
Oh God, yeah, he got it from a different kind of transfusion.
Uh, Again, look up the Bob Euchre, Norm Macdonald thing. It'll be explained to you.
Yeah, exactly. Because Bob Euchre was feeding him cheese. Uh, he loves it. So anyway, they basically they go through and they give all the actual information. You can't get it from casual contact. There's never been a case of a family member getting it. Although my wife knows someone, I guess someone when she was in college came to talk to them about AIDS, and she basically said, hey, I have AIDS. And then she explained that she got it because she was taking care of her brother who's a hemophiliac and he had AIDS. And,
What was his name? Danny.
yeah, maybe after a few years of taking care of him, she contracted it as well. So,
Jeez, that's terrible.
but but anyway, so I mean, in general, yeah, you can't. I mean, obviously, you can't get it from casual contact.
It's difficult. It's not like a cold essentially.
Right.
I mean, if you can avoid blood to blood contact and
Mm-hmm.
obviously like sexual intercourse, which from what I've read isn't actually that's kind of difficult to transmit that way. I mean, people don't
Yeah.
want to say that, but I mean, certain groups are more likely to get it than others.
Yeah, exactly. I mean, it's hard for men to get it, especially from heterosexual sex because you have to the fluids involved aren't really enough. Like you can,
It's a lot of mucus involved,
yeah,
which is rather disgusting. But that's essentially what's happening is your mucus on mucus is in blood.
mhm.
It's very intimate fluid transfer.
Yeah. It's easier to get it from gay sex because not to be graphic, but there's more tearing involved in gay sex, and that can introduce blood into the situation, which blood to mucomembrane or blood to blood contact is the easiest. I mean, not that you want to get it, but that's the easiest way to get it. So that's why that's more risky type of sex if you're not using protection.
I've always heard of something, and I'm thinking slash hoping it's an urban legend. But have you ever heard of the term bug chaser?
No.
It's like supposedly like members of like it's often like the gay community who like want to get AIDS to like fit in with like everybody else, and
Oh,
so they go and intentionally get it. I'm pretty sure that's just a rumor. I've heard it quite a bit. Like supposedly it's an actual thing, which is like I don't even know what the psychology is behind that.
no, I don't either. You don't want AIDS, guys. Come on.
I mean, again, thankfully, it seems like a lot has been done as far as managing the disease
Hmm.
in the modern era. I mean, I'm sure it's not 100% perfect, and I'm sure there's still strains or varieties that they just can't treat as well. But it's I mean, yeah, you don't. If you learn anything from this episode, don't get AIDS if you can avoid it.
Yeah, exactly. But yeah, the antiretrovirals obviously have been a huge help in the fight against AIDS. The other thing too is that if you're on antiretrovirals, apparently it weakens the virus enough to where you can't transmit it person to person. That was the latest study that I was reading about it. They did a 10-year study where they had men that had AIDS and they had sex with their partners unprotected for the last 10 years, I guess. I don't know exactly who volunteers for this, but it's like 1,000-person study. And there were only two instances of men contracting AIDS in the entire 10 years in that study. And both those incidents were proven to be because of infidelity. So they went and had unprotected sex with somebody else and contracted it that way. So no one that was on the antiretrovirals contracted it to any new person. So they're like, we need to spread these antiretrovirals all over the world because then eventually this generation of people that are carrying AIDS will die, whether it's, a natural lifespan or whatever. But that, eventually that generation will all die off.
And it
And
would have transmitted.
yeah, and no one new would have gotten transmitted. So eventually, it will eradicate AIDS. That's what they're trying to do now is spread these antiretrovirals all over the world.
Yeah, but then, just some blonde lady on TV will say that they're giving their kids, some genetic disorder, so, people won't do it.
Right. Yeah, that's the way of the world. Unfortunately, morons convincing other morons to do stupid things.
See, people say dictatorships are always terrible. However,
Right.
but
But
yeah, so now that we've told you all you want to know about AIDS,
on this comedy show. So Wesley does so he becomes Lincoln because Danny got kicked out.
yeah,
But
but he's kind of, I don't know if he's actually afraid of getting AIDS or it's just like the social stigma. He doesn't even want to wear the same costume. He it's kind of fucked up. He just walks up to Mr. Belvedere and hands him a $5 bill and goes, "Make me a costume."
yeah, exactly. Hey, fucker.
Yeah, but we forgot to mention that the older brother, whose name is Kevin, is taking home ec, which terrifies Bob Euchre because he thinks he's like gay because he's like doing laundry or something.
Yeah, it's a very gay panic situation.
It's like, whoa, what's going on there? He's like, oh, it's home ec. But anyways, Mr. Belvedere tasks Kevin with the costume of Lincoln, but I'm assuming Mr. Belvedere deliberately fucks up the instructions because there's no way this guy could have interpreted this as a Lincoln costume. Like, there's no way.
Yeah, well, I think it's basically because it's a joke throughout the whole episode that Kevin thinks that this is going to be an easy A, but he screws everything up. Like he messes up dinner.
Oh yeah, that's true.
He
He
messes
makes like a swat out of ground beef for some reason.
Yes. But so this leads to the most timely joke, or the most timeless joke of the episode, where he comes out in this horrible like stripe or like plaid coat with a giant bow tie, and Wesley says, "I look like Soupy Sales."
Yeah, that's another like okay. I mean, obviously it's in the '80s, but I've only heard of Soupy Sales. I've never seen a picture of him.
Yeah, that's a 20-year-old reference in 1986. So,
Yeah, so
but
Wesley is apparently familiar with Soupy Sales.
so Mr. Belvedere says, "Oh, if there only was a place where you could find a perfectly good non-AIDS covered Lincoln costume."
Yeah, this is kind of fucked up because I mean, if Wesley generally is like upset about this and concerned, I mean, forcing him to put on his like biggest fear probably isn't the most
Yeah.
a helpful thing to do. And this is from like again his butler.
Right, exactly. Yeah, the parents aren't
Mom.
doing anything in this episode.
I think they're just fucking this whole time. What else
Right.
could they be doing?
Ugh.
Mom, Mr. Belvedere, maybe put on that AIDS Lincoln costume.
Leave me alone. So Danny comes in the back door.
Oh,
As-
yeah, that's true.
As Wesley says, he's like, "Hey, I came around the back." I don't think anybody saw me. He's got the garbage, or not garbage bag, the grocery bag stuffed with the Lincoln costume in it, and says, "Hey, here's the costume." He's like, and so they talk a little bit, and they're like, eventually Wesley's like, I don't want to alienate all my friends too, like you did because you've got AIDS. And Danny's like, "Hey, it's not my fault I got AIDS."
Yeah.
And he's like, "Oh, that's a good point." So finally, Wesley kind of relents and says, "Why don't you come watch me?" He's like, "I'm not allowed there." And he's like, "Ah, fuck it. Who cares?" So he takes him, and then Wesley gets on stage, starts reciting the Gettysburg Address, and then stops and says that Danny should be doing this, and he pulls Danny out.
Partially because he doesn't know the Gettysburg Address.
Yeah, one of the kids' mom stands up and goes, "Get away from him!" So,
I don't know why. I mean, it's so funny to laugh at that stuff because, like, it's just weird that people are so ridiculous.
right, it's just
Like,
it's extreme ignorance.
Like, I only recently got into Vines, which is again extreme ignorance. But one of my favorite ones is it's like these are like 7-second clips, so it's gonna take me longer to describe what happens and what happens. my wife already knows what I'm talking about because I watch this all the time. It's like I think it's at a college and they're like a protest and it must be against like gay rights or something.
Mm-hmm.
Because these two young men walk up and they go, "Hey, professor," and like this guy looks at him and then they just kiss. And then the professor, who's like this very large man wearing suspenders and like a hat from like the hat that Alan Grant is wearing in Jurassic Park.
Yes.
And he goes, "Step aside! I think I'm gonna vomit!" And he's like trying to run him. Every time I look at that, I just laugh for so long.
His voice gets so gravelly, so like it sounds like a cement mixer.
Just why would that make you vomit?
I think I'm gonna vomit.
I don't want to see anyone be publicly affectionate. It's no better if it's gay or straight.
Yeah, agreed.
But just a throw up over it.
Seems like an overreaction.
Slightly. This is a grown man.
But so Danny basically says, Wesley says, "Hey, he's not going to hurt you. You can't get AIDS from looking at someone." So he says, "Hey, do the Gettysburg Address," and Danny's like, "I don't know it." He's like, "But I do know one quote from Lincoln." So
but I do believe in this.
So he pulls out like a super obscure, no one gives a shit quote from Lincoln.
Yeah, he doesn't know the Gettysburg Address.
But he knows this incredibly, like this is something that Lincoln said to like two people at a cocktail party. But yeah, he basically says, "Hey, if I don't get to run, I've been disappointed a lot in my life, and I wouldn't be surprised to be completely forgotten and left behind." So basically, Danny's like, "When I die, I know I'll be forgotten."
Right.
Very uplifting, and that's
right.
And so then Danny and everyone leaves, and Danny and Wesley are left there, and they invent the idea of a bucket list.
Right.
I'm pretty sure this is the first time that this was ever in popular culture where he says, "Hey, let's make a list of all the things you'll never get to do and try to do them." I wonder if like second base and like kissing a girl is on there.
Oh, I don't know. Yeah, it's kind of weird because like this is an episode where like the character of Danny, you've never heard of him before, but like he and like apparently they've gone on so many adventures together. Like they just endlessly talk about all these crazy adventures they went on.
Oh yeah,
and you've just never heard of him, and I'm sure you never hear of him again.
No, he's never on the show again.
There must be a name for
AIDS.
that. Like well, yeah, obviously he got it from an African prostitute.
She was rid of it. Her country was ravaged by her village was ravaged by starvation.
Oh, Liam Neeson. Especially when we know how you really feel.
I wasn't here yesterday. I was at the doctor.
Oh, who are you?
Do you want to know what I have? Because I have AIDS. That's God, that is still the best clip ever.
Yeah, I think it is. But yeah, so I don't know. This episode's it's a fucking weird episode.
It is really
is the show normally like this? It's very odd. There's a lot of strange things going on.
It gets very like sweet towards the end. Because Mr. Belvedere hears him talking, and Wesley's like, "Hey, let's go to Gettysburg. We can do all this stuff and everything." He's like, "Oh, that sounds good." And Mr. Belvedere's first of all, the parents were there, right? The parents were there to watch the stuff, but apparently they just fucking left. Mr. Belvedere's there to pick them up, and Wesley says, "Hey, sorry for keeping you waiting." And Mr. Belvedere just looks at him, and a tear trickles down his eye, like he just sat on his balls, and he says,
"Maybe that's how they motivated him."
He says it was worth it.
And then I don't remember this from the show, but actually it kind of seems familiar. Like I guess much like Doogie Howser MD, he keeps a journal, and they like reference that at the end.
Yeah.
Why they do this? I guess they're summing it up for the idiots who don't really understand what the fuck went on in this episode.
Right.
But so basically, he just summarizes what happens, and he's like, "Oh, we went to Gettysburg." No, I think it's just we went to Gettysburg today with whatever the kid's name is, Billy. I don't know.
Danny.
Aiello.
Mm-hmm. Danny Aiello.
Yeah, and he was just singing the whole time. Yeah, so it's like that's how it ends, and then it's like I don't know.
So
it's a weird show.
It is a really weird episode, and
it reminds me of the Small Wonder when they just leave the kids to their own device.
Yeah, exactly. I get I think they're making an honest effort in this episode to try
Yeah.
to educate the public about it. I mean, it's not,
But I think they're also crippled by the fact that they're terrible writers, as you can see by the rest of the episode.
Oh yeah, for
So
sure.
they can literally only spoon feed the facts to you. Like it's like 100% exposition. But it's like, oh hey, I heard so. It's not that. It's like, oh well, by the way, here's some facts about AIDS.
Yeah. I mean, they might as well
Which,
have been
hey,
a news report.
Hey, you know what? It might have been needed at the time. I don't know how popular this show was. I mean, it's very bad, but it's not like it was like the one bad show during the '80s going on.
Mm. So I
I mean,
wanted to try to figure out where Christopher Hewitt was famous from, like why he would be
the
the
star.
star of a show, and just for context, he was born in 1921. He died August 3rd, 2001. So he missed the September 11th attacks. So he didn't live to see that.
Well,
Uh,
that's good.
but he was only in 5 movies.
God forbid those attacks upset Christopher Hewitt, the guy who played Mr. Belvedere.
Exactly.
That would be a
Oh,
tragedy.
Mr. Belding was well aware of the September 11th attacks. I'm not trying to cast any aspersions or to suggest anything, but I'm just saying Mr. Belding was well aware of the September 11th attacks.
He wept on the plane to Philadelphia.
But so he was in 5 movies, in like 3 of them in from 1951 to 1954, then one in 1968, then one in 1986. So, Pool of London, The Lavender Hill Mob, the £1,000,000 Note, which he was uncredited in. The Producers in 1968, small role that in that. In 1986, he was in a movie called Rat Boy as an acting coach. So not much there on television. He was on the Jackie Gleason show in one episode as mumbling English pedestrian, which might be the best crediting I've ever read. In 1976, he was in a show called Ivan the Terrible. 5 episodes of that. It doesn't. I don't see anything. Big.
How did he survive? Is what you're asking.
Yeah, I mean, he worked I guess a little bit, but I don't see how he became the star of a show. I mean, he was on an episode here and there of like On Your Own, the ABC After School special. He was in the television movie of The Elephant Man. He was on an episode of Heart to Heart. He was on Fantasy Island for 10 roles, I mean 10 episodes. He played a main role of Lawrence. And
I feel that during this time period, if you had an English accent, that was like enough to impress the executives. Like, there's so many like shows where there's like an English person on their set.
right.
I don't really understand why there's like this reputation for being like like a highbrow. Like, I mean, I just don't understand where that comes from.
Yeah, look
I
at
mean,
some
the
of their
fact that they have
humor.
royalty. I guess the fact that they have royalty, but aside from that, that's really almost a lower class thing because who the fuck has royalty anymore?
Right. But yeah, look at some of their shows, some of their humor. Now some of their humor is really good, like dry humor, but a lot of it is terrible like puns and just horrible shit.
Right.
Like a lot of there's some good Monty Python sketches, and then there's a lot of really bad Monty Python sketches. And Are You Being Served and Faulty Towers, and I mean, like, I liked Are You Being Served and I liked Faulty Towers, but there's a lot of like Benny Hill.
Right.
It's like, oh, the most funny thing in the world is a man dressed as a woman, and that's the whole joke.
Pretty much. I mean, I guess it's a time period thing too, as we discussed with
Yeah.
My name is Dolomite, but yeah, I don't know.
But that's our episode. So Wesley eventually did not get AIDS, but did get molested by a camp counselor. I think that was later in this.
The guy who played what was it? His name might have been Danny on Who's the Boss? He got AIDS.
Oh yeah, that's right. He did. It was Jonathan. The guy. I think his real name. I
Jonathan.
think
Yeah,
his
how can I
real
forget?
name.
Danny Pintaro is his real name.
Yeah, I was gonna say his
Pintoro?
real name's Danny something. But yeah, of course, because of the way that Tony Danza says those names. Angela,
Exactly.
Mona, Samantha, Jonathan?
Tony Danza.
But when that counselor molested Danny, or molested Wesley, he said, "Hey, Wesley, you need to shave down there to make it smoother so that I can."
How would you like to suck my balls?
So you should get Manscaped and use promo code LATEFEE.
Jeez.
But that's our episode.
You don't need. You want to save money on shampoo? Manscaped.
That's right. Yeah. Protect yourself in case you're molested. Manscaped. So that's our episode 4 to the week here. We'll see.
4 to the week.
We will see you next week. Do all the liking and subscribing and the telling friends and all that stuff. Yeah, do all the man grooming too. Go to manscaped.com. Tell them we sent you.
Manscaping, I meant.
But we'll see you next time. Bye.
See you later.
Yes, as part of the Big Heads Media Podcast Network. Go to bigheadsmedia.com for more great podcasts.